I tried to go to the bush, play some paintball, but weren't having a very good time. So around midday, we packed her in, headed off to Timmy's for a nice little hot chocolate and a large double-double. Long story short, you got to make sure that your stuff is ready for the winter. As I'm sure you've noticed, winter is coming. But it's more than just a tagline from a popular show. It is the truth. Especially here in the north, we have noticed that it's getting colder and you're seeing some performance issues with your gear. So hopefully we'll be able to get through some of this stuff and you guys will have a better time. Winter is a tricky time to play paintball, but it's not impossible. What you notice is a lot of ball breakage. Your marker isn't always as responsive as it should be. You see, general performance issues. Now, electronics obviously are going to slow down because electricity doesn't flow as well in the cold. It's just the nature of things. So what you sometimes need to do is make sure that you are using that high powered battery. Your geos and egos, it is possible to actually switch the solenoid to high power. You'll find that in your menu tree under the hardware. Switch it from medium, which is where they typically are, up to high power, and that'll give the solenoid a little bit of extra oomph to help force it through that stickiness from the cold. Another thing is, it's unfortunate, but the cold is not kind to spool valves. So your DMs, your geos, rails, things like that, you're not going to see the very best performance out of them because they rely heavily on air expansion, and air does not expand as well in the cold. So you're going to want to stick with more of the poppet type. If you have to use an electronic marker, you're going to want to stick with an Ego or an E-Tech. An ETHA is also a good marker to run with. Simple spring return guns are good choices as well. So your minis and your axes, they should perform pretty well. Again, your high ends like your Vanquishes and your DMs, you're not going to see the best performance out of them, and your Geos as well, not to discriminate here. A good idea for playing in the winter is to keep it simple. This is why a lot of people have backups that are incredibly basic markers, like your Azodens, your 98s, your A5s, or your mech markers like a Resurrection or even a pump gun. You're going to not necessarily see a huge drop in performance. It's not like the guns will, it's 0 degrees and therefore the gun doesn't work. But you will notice little performance issues from your marker, like your eyes aren't always as responsive as they should be. They might take a couple extra milliseconds to detect a ball in the chamber. It may not always fire immediately when you pull the trigger, just because, as I said, electrons flow more slowly when it's cold out. Hoppers. You want to look for one that's going to be gentle on paint. Now that can be hard to find in a tournament hopper, so you want to take care to check and see what kind of paddles it has, what sort of performance it's going to have, and again, how simple is it. This is sort of a common theme with playing in the wintertime, is you want to keep things simple. The rotor is very simple and very reliable. However, the parts in it are not the softest. You see the potential for more breakage there. However, I can almost guarantee that the rotor will work the longest of any electronic hopper we carry. Spires are a good one as well. They have a soft paddle in them, and also the internal chamber, sort of the reservoir for the paint, doesn't have a lot of obstructions or anything like that in there for the paint to get caught on or get broken on, anything like that. So Spire is also a solid choice. They're a very smooth running hopper, and they should perform quite well for you in low temperatures. And again, in your hoppers, you want to make sure you're using good batteries because you want that high flow. I prefer the ones that we carry in store. They have not let me down yet. I ran the same set in my die rotor for, I want to say, a season and a half. And that included some winter play. Regardless of what hopper you take or what steps you take to make sure that it performs well in the wintertime, you do need to have good winter paint in it. We carry the GI Frostbite in store, and I suggest you give that a shot, pun intended, this winter for your best performance. So, tanks. In the cold, CO2 is not a good idea. It is a liquid cold gas, which is you're now counting on to expand into a gas. An airborne gas, which it just will not do very well. And what you're going to find is a lot of the liquid gas just freely flowing through your gun. And that is going to cause a lot of problems very quickly. The issue is not necessarily with the air expansion from the high pressure chamber into the regulator and into the marker. What you want to keep an eye out for is your hot fill. That's where you fill too fast, because if you notice when you fill a tank really quickly, it gets warm. And in the winter, your tank is typically going to be cold or cool already. And so if you try to quickly introduce heat to that, you'll get the same thing that happened at the end of Alien 3, where they molten lead and then cold water and kaboom, it exploded. Your tank won't explode, but you will see blown burst discs because they're just little copper plates. And even in the summertime, if you flash fill, you can see them bursting more and more often. So you definitely want to take your time, slow fill on those, and avoid rapidly discharging and then refilling. So give your tank a few minutes to sort of adjust to the ambient temperature. If it rapidly purges, if you're out shooting like crazy and oh look, I'm down to 500 psi because I just shot through all my air, give it a few minutes to just sort of return to a stable temperature, and then slowly fill that tank back up. So there you have it, guys. Keep it simple. Mech guns, if you have to use electronics, take the steps to program them so that they'll perform best in the wintertime. Make sure you're using winter paint, slow fill on your tanks, stay warm. This is your friendly neighborhood tech. I'll see you out there.